Okay, folks. So I wanted to do a quick tutorial video here on upgrading the firmware and the dumper on your Atari 2600 Plus and 7800 Plus console. The process is exactly the same regardless of which one you're using. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go to AtariAge.com and go to the forums section. So if you just go to the main AtariAge.com, you can go to the forums link here in the top right, or you can just type forums.atariage.com and get in. You don't need to register an account to download these files. They're available publicly, but come on, jump in the pool, participate with us. It's a fun site. So then once you're on the site, you want to go to the Atari 2600 Plus, 7800 Plus subforum. And at the top, you will see this beta firmware and dumper builds thread. So if you click on that, if you've never done this before, it's a good idea to click on the click here, which is the guide for the firmware update. And this gives you all the instructions, and it's right from Atari's website. But in order to be able to do the latest firmware, you want to go back to AtariAge. So once you read these instructions, but don't do the process, just click the download here to get all the tools that you need. And then you want to go back to this beta firmware dumper builds. And if you look at the list of the firmwares, what you will see, it'll give you the listing of the latest update on the top and all of the things that have been changed and added and corrected and fixed, thanks to Chris, because he's the best, and everybody else, Fred, and everybody else who's participating in this process. Is a whole bunch of people in the background. And so if you go to the bottom of the post, you will see the actual download links. Like I said, latest one's going to be on the top. Click on the standard if you want the standard. If you want to help out when there's a problem with the game, you can download the debug one. The only difference between the debug and the standard is with the debug, it's going to have a little line of code, a little line of text running along the top of the screen every time you start a game, and that can just give the developers some information about the ROM that you're trying to run or the game that you're trying to run. If there's a problem, that way they can correct it on the other side. But if you just want to play the games and you're not interested in participating in the helping process, you can click on the standard one, and that way you don't get that line of text at the top, which admittedly can be a little bit distracting if you're just trying to play games. And then in addition to that, you want to download the dumper file. So once you've done that, you can go back to the console and we'll start the process. So once you've downloaded those files, then you want to go to the console itself. And you want to plug in your USB-C cable that came with the console. You don't absolutely have to use the USB-C cable that came with it, but it's probably a best practice to do it just because you can't really account for the quality of another branded one, and the one that comes with the console is guaranteed to work, so that's probably the best idea. So now the first step that you want to do, and it doesn't matter what order you do the upgrade process in, it's a two-step process. You have to do the dumper and you have to do the firmware. You can do them in either order, it doesn't matter. I typically will do the dumper first just because it's a little easier. But not so much easier, but just quicker. So at any rate, so for the dumper, what you want to do is you want to set your TV type switch to black and white before you power on the console. Then you want to hold down the game select switch. You have to hold it down while you turn on the console. So I will hold that down with my pinky, turn on with my thumb, and you hear the jingle, the doo-doop. That means that your console is now connected to the computer, which is a good thing. So then you would just run the dumper file, whatever's the latest one, and hit the download button. Hit confirm OK. And that's it. That part's done. So now you can close that. And then you want to go back to the console, turn it off. Now put the TV type switch back into the color setting. And this one can be a bit of a stretch depending upon how wide your hands are. You need to hold down the game reset switch while powering the console on with that set to color. This is for the firmware portion. So you hold down that switch, power on, you get the jingle. Okay, so now we do the second part. So you want to go and double click on the arcade dev tool.exe. That will bring up this little application. You want to click on the upgrade firmware tab. And then the first thing you need to do is select the firmware that you're downloading to it. So you click the firmware button, you grab the version you want, and you click open. And then you just click the upgrade button and it will start the process. You'll hear the jingle again. It will go through its process. This doesn't take too long, it takes about 30 seconds or so. Once it gets to 100, it's gonna tell you that there's reset device success. And when you see that, you are good to go. And that's it. It is done. So now you can close the application. You can power off your console. And you're all set. And your firmware is upgraded. The first time you plug a card in and turn it on after doing a firmware upgrade, you might momentarily see, before the Atari logo comes up, you might see the little green Android robot, because this thing is running some sort of Android Linux-based OS. You'll only see that the once. That's just confirming that what you told it to do is done. And that's it.